very progressive mindset, a lot of trust which the government has endeavored to repose on its stakeholders, insofar as to very small phrase like penalty, a word which has got featured in our act for a long time. How exactly should we perceive that word? How exactly the business or the stakeholders or the trade perceives as that? Can we have a little rephrasing of that word, a little make feel better? So that has also been attempted. The aspect of duty deferrals, which has been introduced for the AO earlier in 2016-17, now we have announced it to be for 30 days. But significantly, what is going to play out is there is a new category which will be termed as the eligible manufacturer importers, for which the formulation is currently being considered. This should be a feature which will be progressive in the sense that if there is a need in a particular sector or across sectors which would require a duty deferment of the customs duty, that also will get played out in addition to the entities which enjoy them presently, that is a T2, T3 of the accredited clients of the AEO program. Now, beyond this, for the first time perhaps, and I'm extremely personally very happy that the Honorable Finance Minister mentioned it, our endeavor to make India as one of the very robust and frontline players in international trade is, of course, when we have our footprints on a digital architecture. And being a very large country with the customs attending to works including on the land borders, on the international airports, or the ICDs, or the gateway ports, and the airports per se, the challenges are manifold. But if everything is subsumed in a manner which is on a digital platform, it does make life very easy for everybody, not only for the department per se, but for the IEC holders, for the passengers, for including the consumers under the B2C in the e-commerce ecosystem. And I would not hesitate to say that there was a very ambitious announcement on this part regarding having in place a single window. Now, single window is a new avatar of the previous version of 2015, in which we basically had the live cargo clearance agencies in place, integrated as such in the customs ecosystem, a digital ecosystem of clearances of export and import cargo. But now we endeavor to even include all agencies who are involved in any measure, small or big, including your import licenses, export licenses, your LPCOs. So much things should become visible for every one of us that it becomes a little predictable exercise, a little exercise in certainty, and which definitely would enable better business planning, better assurance on part of the suppliers, also the importers, exporters. All this in the realm of ensuring that India attains those very high objectives of Make in India. India attains these high objectives of ensuring our exporters do benefit, to make it more time bound, to make it more visible, to know where the glitches are. Now, whether the benefits would accrue or not, I think we are very sure it will definitely accrue once the systems are in place. It is a 2-year program announcement by the Honorable Finance Minister to put in place a robust customs integrated system. And that, I suppose, could happen a few months before that also, because work in that is happening in very right earnest. The single window version 2 is being handled at a very high level, and the government is interested to put on board more than 60 agencies, attending to requirements of more than 600 plus notifications, which are handled by the customs authorities on a day-to-day basis across the 280 plus international cargo clearance points. We have announced, the government has announced its intention to have certain automated initiatives which will happen without any requirement for any further data entry, which will enable that data which is already available is getting populated in some manner. There's a lot of messaging which keeps happening between the stakeholders in a customs cargo clearance ecosystem, whether it's a port or airport or the courier terminals, etc. So we want to see that this messaging happens in a seamless manner, and the content of those messages are utilized in various manner to automate, like automating the registration process or the goods registration, as they say, registration of the import cargo, registration of the export cargo, and then auto out of charges, auto let export orders. Though the customs portion in involving time being taken in the export side is less, because as is evident from the time release study, but we know that if improvements could happen there, it could happen downstream also in the subsequent logistics chain. So we are ensuring that somewhere in place with the initiatives of the logistics oversight put in place by the government of India and various ministries working in tandem and including utilizing the single window interface space, that everything will happen in the coming years where things will happen as desired. Apart from this, we are also conscious of the fact that there is a very large ecosystem which operates. In fact, around 17 to 20% of the cargo goes into the warehousing mode of business. And of course, within the warehousing, there is a mover also, and beyond mover, there is an ecosystem of the customs bonded warehouses. We have attempted that in taking out the wrinkles. There was ecosystem of a permission required to be given by the officers. Now here is a question of trust being reposed on the by the government on the stakeholders. It will be a question of intimation henceforth, and we want to put in place a structure, a digital structure, which will take care of a requirement of an oversight, but oversight in future will happen to be only digital. And then again, attending to the requirements of risks, a risk-based assessment approach will be adopted once we see how these warehouses are going to operate, what benefits will be there for each sector, so that at the same time we have the requirements of certain manufacturing sectors which require support in this area and who do leverage on the warehousing scheme. Of course, from the CBDT side, yesterday we heard there has been certain initiatives there also. So warehousing has been a little reform area we have taken upon ourselves. Lastly, but not the least, apart from touching upon a plethora of stakeholders, is the area where the government has announced its intent about ensuring that all the containers are completely scanned at the major ports. Because if you take the major ports handling sea cargo or the air cargo itself, there is a requirement where things has to be more seamless. There are some agencies, including, like you say, at the airport, the Bureau of Civil Aviation, or at the port also, there could be some authorities. These are requirements which has been announced, and this is certainly a very way forward for the years to come. Not very immediate basis, but definitely in the medium term, where we will be having a non-intrusive approach in our examination of cargo. We have in the interim already announced that during the examination process of the cargo consignments, we would like to bring a transparent manner of oversight, and we do hope that all these measures which has been announced, the nitty-gritties of course will be taken up in your subsequent session as given to understand. But very broadly, it is a budget which has reposed a lot of faith on the citizens, and there's a lot of responsibility and accountability on the government departments to deliver on these promises. And I can assure you, on part of the CBAC, that we will be putting our best foot forward. We will continue with our engagement of consultation, cooperation, and coordination with our stakeholders. We will try to deepen our understanding about the problems which we continue to face and take them on board as the days come by. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Surjit ji. Should we take some questions on indirect tax first, and then maybe Uday, you want to?
Yeah, thanks a ton, Surjit ji. I think, I mean, you rightly pointed out a couple of things that even in the earlier kind of interactions that people haven't really noticed. The courier relaxation, okay, removing that particular threshold, I think is a massively, big move. It actually, from an intent perspective, goes from the fact that the sheer trust kind of mechanism starts there. Again, the Section 67(1), by actually legislating that you don't really require any prior permission from the legislation and kind of going into this entire self-assessment and again, these are moves that we wouldn't have expected to kind of have happened in this. We've been seeing this. So it's a massive, let's say, change in approach and the digitalization, I think, which you quite rightly articulated. One question I've had, okay, and I mean, I'm sure there would be other questions that would come from this. I think the industry has been asking for some kind of a dispute settlement kind of scheme. And the reason is actually just to provide a little bit more certainty for people to kind of allow Is there something in the works? Should we be working with you all to kind of get into some mediation, conciliation framework, whereby some of the disputes in the past can be settled and people can move on?
So, in this particular area of focus, actually, this has been, I must admit, this was taken up by FICCI and the other bodies also, that whether there could be some manner of dispute resolution or some sort of amnesty scheme, as was being phrased earlier. I must admit that the custom ecosystem, it operates with a lot of footprints, about 60 odd agencies in place. There is so much of commitment on part of, I'm not denying that this could never be a reality, but of course, it hasn't happened in this budget because the speech is before all of us. But I can just tell you the intricacies involved, and that was also appreciated by certain trade bodies who broached this subject. And this has been last year also. This was taken up. Is the fact that customs does endeavor in the areas of prohibitions, restrictions. Apart from its own customs act, there is a lot of statutes and laws which we enforce. So once we take any measure, it has got its implications across. So of course there was this issue: can we limit it in the areas of classification, valuation? Now these are very data driven empirical findings, and we had requested the trade to come up with certain more firm proposals. And I think as the days to come, as I said, the government of India is extremely open. And but having said that, in fact, in the matter of dispute resolution, sometime in 2023, followed up in 24, we have provided value benchmarks on values in which the government would not prefer filing any appeal. Of course, those appeals would not take away any laws or the principles which needs to be adhered to, but basically on basically the quantum of duty involved, appeals would not be filed. I think we have seen a lot of positives there. The number of appeals which are getting filed has come down. And in the matter of dispute resolution, I must admit there was this request on part of the trade that whether in customs appeals, whether can you bunch appeals together on various import declarations, bills of entry, as they say. Now that part, I think, will continue to engage us. But customs reforms has, though in this budget, has occupied a very large space, I must admit, including almost 1.5 pages of the madam's document, which has been published in the public domain. But it has been a continuous process. As I said, we'll continue to work with all of you to fine tune what would be the further areas to announce and revamp and reform. Thank you.
So I'm just going to add a couple of more kind of questions before kind of open this. I think the other big change that you're bringing in is this entire deferral of payment of duty and expansion of that framework to allow eligible importers to also kind of go ahead and do it. One request, and I know that you all are going to kind of create the guidelines for the same. One request is to make that particular category as expansive as possible. Okay, and I mean it happens for indirect taxes, even otherwise, wherein self-assessment payments are made, and if let's say the payments are kind of are not made, or there is a default in 1 month, then subsequent kind of exclusions are brought about. But that sheer step or allowing people to make the payments periodically, I mean, it significantly enhances the efficiency. So that was one, and I would definitely like your comments on that. And perhaps the last one is on an overall basis, this entire digitalization, and if you all have very ambitious targets to kind of execute within this financial year and also the next financial year, if you would want to just quickly let people know as to what you're planning there, because again this is so inspirational, and I think people should realize what's being tried to be achieved in this overall really short time that you all are trying to do.
Well, thank you very much. We have taken note of all these suggestions. First of all, on the duty deferral, it needs to be as expansive, as beneficial as possible. We will definitely, if required, have a quick round of consultations with FICCI and other bodies. This would be a game changer because for entities, as I mentioned, beyond the AO realm, beyond the realm of AO ecosystem. Now, the digitalization initiatives, in fact, today, fortunately, businesses have got very advanced systems. So I'm just thinking aloud. It's not part of the budget or anything. That whether in future can we leverage the systems advancements in which is existing and which is used by the businesses in some manner, as to have an interplay between the government system and the system which is there housed. Of course, on the digital initiatives, as has been mentioned, we will endeavor to quickly have certain round of discussions, which maybe FICCI could be good enough to host it here in Delhi, or maybe across the city. We will take measures to do that. Though in the matter of digitalization, we in phases we bring out advisories, etc., but we're trying to house them together in a manner which is more appreciable. Thank you.
This question
Yes,
there.
I think the gentleman, I'll come back. Yes.
Yes, and we are looking forward for implementation. Industry is also looking forward for this rationalization of custom duties in sectors where the India has large capacities and which are unutilized. And these capacities not only for the domestic demand, also for exports. These capacities are unutilized because of the cheap imports and illegal imports. Whether there is some rationalization on this part, and chemical is one of such sectors.
So basically, the time of the budget, as we know, we take this measure to interact not only with the industry stakeholders but also with the line ministries who happen to be, like in the case of chemicals, the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. Now, you heard in the budget speech that India aims to occupy a high position in the area of sports. Now, there would definitely be a requirement for attending to some of the requirements of customs, duties, and taxes, and that would definitely be a way forward. Ministry of Civil Aviation is looking at putting in place, hubs for not only for maintenance, repairs, etc., but also for transit of passengers, something like what we have internationally. So various industry segment do come into our picture of rolling out what could be a strong manufacturing segment. And while doing it, new initiative which is announced, like the biopharma initiative by the Honorable Finance Minister, if at all it requires a treatment on part of the indirect taxes and customs, will definitely get attended to. Now, these are also very ambitious programs by the Government of India. So a whole of government approach is in line for almost many years now, and that gives a scope for a role play by each of the line ministries, and we will definitely play a role in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please.
Namaskar. I welcome today's meeting. As has been mentioned by Uday sir, regarding the mediation and dispute resolution at the basic level of where the dispute starts, we find the departments and the officers are often prejudiced with the laws, and the continuous litigations focus the energy of the taxpayer towards the litigations there and thereon, whereby the revenue generation and the other prime objectives are put by a side. This is happening in the direct taxes and the indirect taxes as well. They don't try to, the laws are so complicated, ease of doing business, a citizen or an industry is often involved in such methodologies. In spite, Apex Court even today is promoting the dispute settlement mediation. My second humble question was, whereas one nation, one election is going on, why the government and the respective departments don't go to one nation and one tax? There are multi-layer tax where the industry and the other people are involved, just like GST, TCS, TDS, income tax, and thereby interest, penalties and prosecutions, so on. There are volumetric such issues being tackled by day to day by the industry and the individual citizen? Why we don't fastly step towards one nation, one tax? Thank you. Rakesh Gupta, Padma Polychem Private Limited.
So basically, very broadly, I'd like to answer. I've got my colleague from the Central Board of Direct Taxes. I'll not be able to say whether in future we'll have one tax. Of course, we endeavored that in the GST with subsume around 18 taxes. I think India has started that, and that has been appreciated globally. And the further, what is the global good appreciation which has come forth is how exactly has India leveraged on its indirect tax system domestically with the tariffs and custom taxes or the custom duties internationally. Now, this is something which I'm telling India has taken a big step forward. Definitely, the days will come in the era of artificial intelligence. By 2047, we don't know where exactly we will stand physically. Whether from our comforts of our home, we'll be able to see everything which is happening. You reflected upon the issue of mindset problem. Now, mindset problem is definitely in the big country of India is a reformative approach. And internally, the department do take measures to have a little reorientation of that mindset. We have this exercise internally going on, and we can only say that we will definitely be expecting more positive outcome of all this. Thank you.
Sir, even GST is very complicated in its implementation way. There is no place for the taxpayer, there is no space for the taxpayer MSME in consideration. They are too prejudiced. The second point is 47 is too for the earliest we do one nation, one tax. The government is employing lot of machinery on the collection of revenue. That expenditure directly is indirectly on the taxpayer and on the nation. What is happening? We have, if we want to progress towards the Viksit Bharat, after all, it is citizens' right under constitution
Absolutely.
to exist with a nominal tax, not TCS, TDS, interest, penalty, prosecution.
Absolutely.
What is
Rakesh-
happening? Who is going to see that?
Rakesh,
Who is
your
going to
point
address
is
that?
made.
Thank
I
you.
think sir has understood your
Thank
point.
you.
Any other questions? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'll just add on to what has already been mentioned. I think I would like to bring to your attention the issues which we face on ground. On that, if I have done my export, shipping bill doesn't come to on the portal to my bank, or it doesn't go. IGST is not reflected. You know, the system of correction. I think that's something is very, very tough and difficult. You cannot go back and see how this has to be done. So resulting into that your credits are pending or your settlement is pending. Similarly, sir, at the ground level, at your commissioner level, duties paid under protest. The dates are not fixed. The cases are not fixed. It's pending for years. Can we fix up some timeline that within which they have to resolve, whether this way or that way? But this has to be fixed, sir. These are pending for a long time. Similarly, the issues faced on the courier import, which you mentioned, I think in case there is a clerical mistake somewhere, it's so tough to get it corrected, sir. You lose we lose our credit. So I think these are few things, but important because they run into lakhs.
So on your last part, I'd like to touch upon, because the filing of the declaration is filed by the courier operators, and there I understand there in some areas there has been some problems regarding the KYCs and declaration of what goods, etc. That of course is an ongoing process, we must admit. But in the current revamp of the ecosystem, we do, as I mentioned very briefly, it could happen that more trust is reposed on the courier operators, and the KYC process is streamlined also. Now, regarding your mentioning of certain grievances which is being experienced on part of the export segment, which is happening, rectification of things which you require to be done post-export. Now, we have brought in certain measures. If you recollect last budget also, there is a voluntary approach in course correction of your declarations already filed, both on the import side and export side. And that is an intimation which you give. And if suppose it happens to be in the requirement of certain export benefits or refunds, there is also a stipulation which has been laid down procedurally. Now, we do understand that on the export side, there is a very large element where the stakeholders intend to have course corrections to be made. I must admit, before the August gathering, that the Government of India has been taking very serious consideration of all the matters which has been placed by the concerned export promotion councils, including FICCI, ASSOCHAM, CII, and other trade bodies. The last many months, there has been very vigorous attempt to understand these problems in detail. And I must admit, the almost quite a large segment which was communicated internally, but again, it's a question of interministerial approach. It's a whole of government approach. It could be the DGFT, it could be the Ministry of Commerce, it could be on one hand the DPIIT or the Department of Revenue, or so many across plethora of agencies, textiles, etc. Now we are attempting to harmonize all the glitches which is being experienced, and the resolution does happen. We have an ongoing process in the CBIC, and these basically the facts what you just mentioned. Export remittance is not happening, EDPMS not getting alerted, IDPMS not happening. These are already taken on board, and I do suppose these will be getting resolved as fast as possible. As I mentioned, it is not only in the doorstep of CBIC, but as a whole of government approach, it's a question of RBI, it's a question of host of line ministries which are involved. Thank you.
Sir, one is the procedural aspect. Second is that you lose your credit. You are not able to use it. IGST, it is not reflecting on IGST portal because of some issue there.
So the past IGST credit which you were endeavoring on payments which has been done subsequently on provisional assessment finalization, on important assessment finalization provisionally, these are something which I mentioned, and the digital architecture, once it is robust, the messaging exchanges happens in a manner which is able to capture the details and the data fields, which will be able to automate the rollout of the export benefits and including your IGST refund. Thank you.
Sir, Pinaki Das from Association of Synthetic Fiber Industry.
You're already running behind schedule.
Yeah, I just reiterate the fact from my previous colleague. Overcapacities and subsidies by specifically from China has resulted low capacity utilization, underutilization, and across entire man-made fiber, synthetic fiber segment, which has been given with the data, facts, and figures presented before Ministry of Finance. In the budget. Even the last budget's announcement, there was specific duty on synthetic fabric, which was again reiterated in some other category of HS codes. But somehow those points have not been addressed, although it's a good that is a long-term vision have been drawn in terms of textiles, a roadmap, and then it's a long-term, we have to work on it towards it to get the things done. But in the immediate measures, these are the challenges industries are facing. And also there are substandard material dumpings happening continuously, which is the known given fact, and it is represented from time and again. So what is the takeaway, or means whether we will further submit our representation, or how it will tackle these issues, sir?
The aspects of the industry sectoral focus which you have for textiles currently would do well if you are able to reiterate them in a manner which we will be able to take it up with the Ministry of Textiles, because I understand from your issue that it is not only limited to CBIC, it does happen in the realm of the commerce and textiles. We will be in a right earnest taking it up. Some areas, as you mentioned in the past, have been attended to, but we'll look at some of the more positive developments elsewhere where duties, tariffs have been brought down on Indian exports. We will see something better things to happen, but textile happens to be a large employment sector. Oh, definitely we'll look into this. Regarding DGTR, anti-dumping and all, we understand the industry stakeholders having expressed the dumping issues from China, and we are conscious of that fact. Would like to request if you can reiterate them in more clear terms to us.
Surely, sir, we'll do that. Just a fact means even after getting the disclosure from DGTR, it has not been finally given the notification to customs to implement it. The implementation has always become a challenge, means in many sectors and products.
This, if I understand correctly, your notification by the Department of Revenue, which is a time period gap of 90 days, which is available. In some areas, if you can have which exactly TR notification is pending, we will take it up in the tax research unit.
Yeah, it is there, yeah.
Thank you so much, Surjit ji, for such a patient answering of all the questions and concerns of our members, and your insights in respect of the budget. Really appreciate it. Let's move on to direct tax. Prasanjit ji, again, from a direct tax standpoint, we have seen clearly a big push towards trying to trust taxpayers. Even the receptivity is evident, whether it is in terms of reducing the amount that has to be paid during a stay from 20% to 10%, which considerably helps businesses with their liquidity and so on. Also in terms of, the buyback tax provisions, the way in which simplicity has been brought about in various fields like safe harbor rules, APA being done in a time-bound manner, and so on. Decriminalization, which has come in a big way. So really appreciate the Revenue Secretary also this morning mentioned quite a lot about the whole emphasis of the government being to try and build that trust, because the whole feeling is most taxpayers want to be honest and want, so that whole atmosphere is changing, which is a very, very healthy sign. Look forward to hearing your insights, and of course then we have various questions for you too. Over to you.
Thank you, Pranav-ji. And Namaskar. First of all, at the outset, I would like to thank FICCI for inviting Team CBDT for a very, very important discussion and at a very historic FICCI auditorium. If I see that it was where here the Mahatma Gandhi had addressed on 1931, yes. So that I can see it. So it's a very, in fact, it becomes more contextual because it's a historic budget, and being the first from the Kartavya Bhavan that the Honorable FM had also pointed out. So it is very historic at a very historic venue. So just to, I will give a broad outlook of the approaches and the principles which were followed in the direct tax proposals. So what was the basic approach has been as per the Honorable PM's vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Vikas towards the Viksit Bharat. That has been the motto of these direct tax proposals in the budget. And if I divide it broadly into 4 categories, it will be the trust-based governance, enhanced taxpayer services, litigation management, and bringing certainty and clarity in issues. This is leading to ease of business and ease of living. So this is the broad theme which has been the proposals have been built on. So just to go into, before I go into the more details about the various aspects, I would also just like to share with this August gathering with the government's approach towards simplification of the direct taxes, in which the Income Tax Act 2025 was introduced, which will be enabled from 1/4/2026. The proposed rules and drafts will be rolled out soon. And for the first time, the government has decided that the draft rules and the forms will be shared with the stakeholders on the public forum, which before they are notified. And just to share with the August gathering that these rules and forms, which will be actually the enabler for the implementation of the new act, the forms are ultimately the stakeholders are the users of the forms. So a lot of thought process has gone into making of these forms, and which include the simplification, removal of the redundancies, making it smart, simplified, making it unified, enhancing the user experience, and also making it smart forms. Making smart forms means the forms are talking to each other, means single source of data. If the data is there somewhere with the tax department or any other agencies also, which the department is in touch, all those data will be fetched. And once so what will the result will be? The result will be that the data will be auto-filled, and so the user experience and the compliance level will be very, very less for the taxpayers, so which will enhance the experience also, and also reduce the compliance burden also. So I would request that once these forms and rules are placed on the public domain shortly, the members should be going through them, and of course we also putting the guidance note, the draft guidance note in the FAQs also on the for the public consultation also. And so it can be, when it comes out, it should enhance not only the enhanced stakeholders enhanced user experience also, but it should be the best for all the stakeholders. So this is all about the enhancing the experience, and how the trust-based. A lot of talk has been taught about how the grievances on the various fronts have been there, litigation has been there. So the government has been focusing on the trust-based governance, and which can be seen from where we see that from the various measures which has taken into account, starting with the decriminalization and rationalization of the penalties. So if I go to the various provisions which were related to prosecutions, most of the prosecutions were having 7 years of rigorous imprisonment with minimum terms of imprisonment also. So all these have been done away with. Some of the prosecutions have been decriminalized. All the other provisions have been reduced to simple imprisonment, and also no minimum imprisonment has also been, leaving it to a fine also. And threshold and a very graded approach has been taken, where depending on the nature of the offense, it will also that it can be a fine also, it can be a minimum, no minimum imprisonment type of things have been recommended. So it is a very, very big change, which shows that how the government is focused on easing the businesses and the life of the citizens, the taxpayers, for any inadvertent errors where they have made some mistakes and which they want to correct it. And all in addition to this, all the prosecution proceedings are compoundable. So that adds to that it can be compoundable. And just to share with the audience that a lot of compounding has been done in the last 2 to 3 years when this new provisions had taken into place, which is very robust and very, very systematic approach. Which then again, one of the major areas of concerns from the stakeholders was regarding the Black Money Act, and for which again this disclosure scheme has been brought in for the small taxpayers. So what we are targeting, the government has been conscious of the fact that very of the honest taxpayers who have missed out when this Black Money Act was introduced 9 years back, had missed out the opportunity of disclosing it. So for stakeholders such as students who had opened the bank accounts, or tech professionals who got ESOPs, or NRIs who were returned back to the country, or professionals who were on deputation, and these type of stakeholders who were generally missed out, had foreign assets or had foreign income, or in some cases they had foreign income and on which taxes was also paid, but they had missed out on disclosing the foreign assets. So a window has been brought in called FAST. That is, the scheme has been called, that scheme will be notified. So this will give a big relief. So of course, taking care of the prosecution penalties will be done away with. This is also one of the major steps taken by the government. And making the ease of living and ease of compliance, if we see that the TDS certificate for the small taxpayers, which will be notified soon, it has been made automated, which you can basically systems will be issuing it, no interface, no human interface, it will be automatically issued. Then taking into consideration how the human aspect also, if you see the motor vehicles accident claims. So it was noticed that in the cases of where interest on the compensation was paid by the motor vehicles tribunal, it was being taxed and the TDS was being deducted. The government has done away with even the taxation part and even a TDS part. So taking into consideration how compassionately it is looking towards the taxpayers and the citizens of the country. Then again, for making it simpler for the NRIs who want to sell their properties, it was a big hassle for them because the buyer has to obtain the TAN, and which was of course again a compliance burden for the TAN. That has been done away, and the PAN will be sufficient for the buyer to do with the transactions also. And again, another important part has been that the provisions related to updated returns and revised returns. The revised returns period and the belated returns period has also been extended, and the updated returns the scope has also been enhanced. Even in the cases where reassessment proceedings, where the department has specific information and the cases have been reopened, even those cases where the notices have been issued, the taxpayer has the choice and option of going for the updated return. So the overall approach has been that the taxpayers, we trust the taxpayers, and we know that once they are nudged, they are told that there are some discrepancies which you have missed out or you have been wrongly claimed ignorantly, please come out and please pay the taxes, some additional taxes, and finish with and get away with the proceedings, so making it life simpler. And also even for the TCS rate for the domestic travels companies has been reduced from 20, where there was a big demand from the tourism industry. One of the members had asked about the tourism, so this has been taken care of by the, as far as tax proposal is concerned, even taking into claim for the reduction in the TDS and TCS for the remittances made for the on the medical for the medical purposes for the students. All these have been taken into care of, and also the return dates have been more rationalized, because it was found that maximum, it was a big burden from the 31st July for the taxpayers and for the auditors. So that has also been taken care of, though it has been extended and it has been integrated into this. Then another part was considered that 15GH, 15H forms were being filed by the investors. The huge numbers were filed by the investors, where a lot of senior citizens were involved, and housewives, small taxpayers, which were finding it difficult for. So now they don't have to run to different places. If they are going to get dividends or interest from the 5 or 6 companies or payers, they don't have to go individually. They have to just go to a single depositor, and they deposit. There are 2 depositors. They will take care of the so they making it life simpler. And then of course the safe harbor rules, as my friend Pranoji mentioned about how the safe harbor rules have been expanded. It from 300 to 2,000 crores. It's a huge jump, and which will of course not only attract investments, and also it will also give flip to innovations and research also, and to the Indian industries, and a big platform has been provided for the ecosystem for the economic benefits also. And another part was considered in the search and seizure assessments also, where it was gathered from the stakeholders, where in such cases where sometimes in one transaction is found for 1 year only, and the search proceedings for the 5-6 years will be opened in those cases. So it was a big burden for the taxpayers who had cases, especially in the cases of realtors or something where we found that some on money had been paid, and so that also had been simplified. It will be limited to 1 year also. So the overall approach, if you see that a very detailed nuances have been gone into taking into consideration whatever the various stakeholders have been feeling the increase in the compliance burden, or felt that there is a need to simplify things. That has been done, and technology has been driving force. And I would like to share with the nudge campaign, which has been going for the last 2 years regarding the updated returns. As a result, in the last 2 years, 1 crore 22 lakh taxpayers have updated their tax returns, which shows when the honest taxpayers are made aware of their mistakes, that you have missed out on certain discrepancy on certain claims, or you have made wrong claims, or you have made some mistakes and when they are nudged, they are told, they come out cleanly, and they pay the additional tax, and they do it. So this has been the approach, and this shows even in not only in terms of the domestic transaction, but also in the cases of foreign assets also. A huge number of taxpayers have come across, and they have disclosed their foreign assets also, and foreign income also. So trust-based governance has been one of the focus of this direct tax proposals also, and as in line with the government policy of trust-based governance. And one of the major, I would like to also share that one of the major factors which will bring a lot of change in bringing around the litigation as far as direct taxes are concerned is about the integrated assessment and penalty order. So the composite scheme has been launched, where both the penalty and the assessment will be done together. Earlier, it was bringing a lot of uncertainty that when the assessment order was passed, then the taxpayer was in limbo whether the penalty will be passed, it will be levied or not levied, and then it will be then now it will be at one go. They will be knowing that what it will be, whether the penalty is there, and even to make it more easier, the penalty part has been kept in abeyance. It will not be any interest, will not be calculated, and the tax and for filing the appeal, only Atul Pranoji also mentioned that only 10% has to be deposited for filing the appeal. That will also give more liquidity to the taxpayers, and from the earlier 20%. So these are the I think broad reforms. So with this, I think this takes care of the broad approach which government has taken, and what the honorable PM had mentioned about the reform express. I would say that the direct taxes proposals give more boost and more energy to the reform express, and other forms of about the other about data center and the GVC and the toll manufacturing, all these factors, you see the whole plethora of proposals have been made, bringing to which boosting not only the economy but also the taxpayers' confidence and also the citizens also. Thank you, Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prasanjit ji. You did mention about decriminalization, which is admittedly one of the highlights of this budget, no doubt about it. One of the things, however, which I do feel probably can be discussed is Niti Aayog had suggested full decriminalization for many things and partial for many things. Most of it has been accepted, but a couple of things I find, like TDS, TCS or return filing, they had said fully decriminalized, but in the budget we see only partly it's been accepted and partly not. So I was wondering what was the thought process, especially given the whole spirit of trying to build trust and trying to build a ecosystem of honest taxpayers. On the penalty and assessment combined order, I quite see the mind from which it is coming, but at the same time there is some apprehension amongst industry and taxpayers that for penalty actually there's a much higher standard of proof required in order to levy a penalty than for making an addition during an assessment, as various courts have held. Also, when it comes to penalties, at least the taxpayer, if he knows in advance during the assessment phase and part of the assessment order what the reasons were for making certain additions, he can then come ahead with additional proof, additional evidence to show that it wasn't really warranted and at least penalty isn't warranted. So is this combining really going to be the best way forward, or is there a better way of going about it? Similarly, one of the asks of industry as well as Niti Aayog, I think, was this reverse burden of proof, that the taxpayer is presumed guilty unless he proves himself innocent, which is quite the opposite of general criminal law, where a citizen is assumed to be non-guilty till he is proven to be guilty, whereas that is turned on its head in the current Income Tax Act, and the ask was that reverse burden of proof on the taxpayer should be done away with. So some of these things we thought would have been great if they would have come about in the budget as part of the decriminalization. Would be really helpful to have your thoughts on these subjects.
Yeah. So I would just on the first of all on the decriminalization part, I would like to mention that most of the recommendations of the Niti Aayog had been taken into consideration, but we also have to need to understand that when in the cases of where I will tell you about scenarios where someone, a taxpayer, deducts a tax TDS on behalf of several of his employees and doesn't pay it, and he vanishes. So who is suffering? Ultimately, it is suffering. It is the taxpayers are suffering because the employees are suffering. So it cannot be a situation where we can decriminalize the entire things and make it that it's free for all, or it is a scenario where you deduct taxes. Basically the taxes have been deducted. It's not yours. It has been deducted on the behalf of some persons, and it is supposed to be deposited with the government. It's the government money which has been taken on the behalf of someone. So that aspect has to be taken into consideration, because if you totally decriminalize it, that is why if you see, it has been a graded approach now. We have done that if the evasions related to 10 lakhs or less, it is a fine only. If it is 25 lakhs, so it is a graded approach. So that is why to say that we do decriminalize everything and everything will be ordered. And if you also see, all the prosecutions are 2 years only. Only in the cases of repeated offenders, it is 3 years.
Correct.
So some balance has to be kept into a system that and that is why we have done away with the minimum. We have left to the courts. If the court feels that the person is his offense is not so serious, the court will decide whether it will be 1 day or 2 days or 3 days or 1 month, whatever, or it is only fine. So we have left it to the courts only, because the court will let the court decide. And also keeping in mind that the honest taxpayers, sometimes they make some comment, the compounding scheme still exists. So if you see in an overall package, things are in place, and the department and the government feels that no one is going to suffer who has made a genuine mistake. So this is why that a balance has to be taken. Now coming to the second about the penalty part, is that there is a very good question. So now it just to ensure that it is not that the assessment and the penalty will go to a show cause. Once the assessment has been drafted, a mechanism will be shared soon, but just in the principle I am telling you, a show cause will be given for the penalty, and for which the taxpayer will have the right to respond. And as you rightly mentioned, it's a more burden of he or they will be having a right to respond to that. And so it cannot be that arbitrary, that the tax officer decides that once I have given him a show cause, and I will decide it. So the second part will be a show cause regarding the penalty.
Very good. And regarding the burden of proof, sir, anything? Because that's a major pain point sometimes. That
see, the burden of proof, the concept of the burden of proof is ultimately, see, it is, if you see, it is not something of a strict burden of proof. So scenarios has to be, because lot of information is in your domain, in your knowledge. So if I leave that everything, a department has to prove it, for example, then it becomes impossible, because what have we, they ask checks and balances, there are systems in place, the provisions are already there, you are getting ultimately if you draw a line, what is there? Natural justice. The principles of natural justice takes care of whether you are getting the opportunity to prove your point, whether you are getting to opportunity to show that your transactions, if your case of transactions were genuine in a manner in which it has laid down the law, it is proved. So that is the purpose.
Right. So one of the points you also mentioned was, and it's a fantastic move, the tool-based 15G, 15H, filing to the depository and the depository shares with all the companies. It's a fantastic thing. In fact, that was one of the representations. But should it not be extended similarly to other aspects? Like we thought that it could just be uploaded on the CBDT or government website, where even bank FDs and other things, so throughout it can be used. Wherever under that pen there is a form 15G, 15H, etc. file, all the payers, whether it is bank FDs or companies paying dividend and so on, rather than restricting it to only depositories and companies.
So very valid. It is already under consideration, and it is being worked upon. So soon, once the decision is made, it will be.
Excellent. Thank you so much, sir. Very heartening. Even your penalty show cause notice point, so it's really helping. So one of the points which has gone completely unmentioned is, while we are on the one hand talking of real income, actually what the taxpayer has earned should be taxed, one of the points which I thought was a little not quite easy to understand is, for a person earning dividend income, if he has incurred expenses specifically exclusively for earning that income, only 20% was being allowed based on the budget provisions a few years back, and in this year's budget provisions it is now provided that even that 20% will not be allowed. If there is an expense incurred exclusively for the purpose of earning the income, should it not be allowed naturally, because only after deducting that real actual income of the taxpayer can be known?
Patamba.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, but the whole policy has to be seen from a background also, because dividend is to be taxed on an applicable rate. So that applicable rate for individual, you could have seen that in Finance Act 2025, now 12 lakhs, we are not taxing anything. So it is something to do with the earlier policy. So therefore, first thing is that the government feels that the borrowed capital should not go into a riskier proposition of investing. So that is one part. Second part, when the dividend is actually earned, it is taxable on an applicable rate. Already the applicable rate, if you see, there is a lot of, relaxation over the years. Therefore, it doesn't make much sense to even allow this, which is contrary to a broader policy outlook.
So I'll just make one point and then throw open. There are a lot of promoters, entrepreneurs, startup, businessmen who borrow monies for investing, and it just enables growth, expansion, and so on. Many of those are promoter holding companies, holding shares of their operating or listed companies, and so on. So it's not always, if we make it possible for entrepreneurs to even borrow and infuse capital and grow their business, it's just helpful when we are competing in a global environment. So my humble submission, you may want to consider that. Why don't I open up any questions from the team? Yes, it's up.
I said, very interesting actually. We had the Revenue Secretary and now Prasenjit saying about the entire trust-based governance. And I think that is clearly, I think even when the Revenue Secretary started, he started with his thought process. And that is a very, very welcoming mood. But let me pick up what Pranav just added, is that really in global systems, if you look at it, I think whenever there is a breach, and I think I can see what you suggested, that you don't deposit TDS and you run away, there is certain criminal issues involved. But I would request you to think about a little bit more global economic regulations, where penalties or in such situation, monetary compensation which you demand is much more, and that is in lieu of imprisonment. That what it does is really it actually builds a lot of check and balance, because if you delay it, the economic impact is much more than what you save. And something like that can also, because a lot of time in large corporates and people promoter level, the things could be of misses, and if the impact here is huge, there is no economic benefit of not complying. And in that situation, because you said it's a reform express, so the next year reform, you can think about that part to be looked at it, because I think the criminal part of economic offenses makes a lot of global investors very nervous. And just let me just give you some numbers so that it will help you to appreciate why we are, because Indian promoters, Indian business houses, FICCIs, their members, they understand that, but globally people don't understand. And if you look at our results, net FDI in last 10 years have annually has been just $10 billion net, if you actually deduct. So that is a little bit of a problem, and today we are competing globally because a lot of AI companies globally are growing phenomenally, and we are all competing with the same amount of money, and we all understand we need money to grow, bringing growth. So I would request you to think about that.
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you. In fact, Mohit and we have been the hostel mates. So nice, good to see him. So just to respond to, of course, we would like to have some inputs from the FICCI that about some provisions. But just to give a background of, and that his thought process had gone about what is the practices in the other countries also, and we were quite, in fact, amazed or to surprised to see that a lot of the so-called developed economies have a very, very stringent prosecution. They in UK, for just example, it is 14 years of rigorous imprisonment, and Australia also. So when we are looking at we thought that our jurisdiction of 7 years rigorous is quite heavy, and we are reducing it. Then we are also looking at but of course it is very open, and if we can come up with some more suggestions, and it can always be looked into. That is
Actually, just to add what sir has told, the 15th section now deals with prosecution, and there are some subpart 35 offenses. So in this budget, actually we fully decriminalized 2 and 33 as partially decriminalized. The whole process of not considering at some prosecutions to be fully decriminalized is that those who actually fall into a serious kind of offenses like falsification, false entry, search related, non-compliance. Those are the only part. Now coming to that, many countries have, whether we can have an alternative of penal provision rather than a prosecution. Actually, all these prosecution we have now inbuilt the fine. It is either imprisonment, which is rigorous, is now changed to simple, or some kind of fine also has been incorporated. That means court has been given a choice to put or convert that to a fine. So you can find out that in many and significantly large number of offenses we have done that.
Thank you so much, Prasanjit ji and Pitambar Das Saab. Yes, please.
Good afternoon. I am Rajesh Khai. I am from JK Group. So we really appreciate this proposal of combination of assessment and penalty order. But there are apprehensions that each addition made in the assessment order will result into penalty. Even though there will not be any cash outflow on account of the penalty amount or interest thereon, but in case of large corporates, listed companies, what will happen? There are requirements of stock exchange disclosures. This will swell up the contingent liabilities in the books of the assessee as well as the CARO report. And this may hamper the issuance of refund for subsequent years, because huge liability will appear on the income tax portal equivalent to tax amount as well as penalty amount. And it is the experience, past experience, that in each case the AO levies the penalty wherever any addition has been made. So it is a welcome step, but some guidelines should be issued that on which addition penalty will be levied, because AO considers that every addition is misreporting or underreporting of income.
Just to supplement what Rajesh Saab is saying, sir, the problem is in the implementation. So there might be 14 years prosecution, imprisonment in some countries, but it is done with a lot of discretion at the implementation stage. Here, unfortunately, when some of these provisions come, we are not as confident that the implementation will be done in a very discreet manner, in a manner that is very fair, justified, and so on. So therefore, probably till we reach that stage of maturity, shouldn't it be a little more tempered, is the only request I think that all of us, and his point is very valid. What happens is, every time there is a demand on the portal without a show cause notice, the adjustment of that demand in practical reality on the ground happens against all the refunds of returns that are getting filed. So once that demand gets created, even if it is stayed, even where 80%, 20% was payable till today, 80% was stayed, even that 80% stayed demand gets adjusted against the refund. And that is the reality of how most cases, unfortunately, today are.
Just to, Pankaj may correct me, that the penalty amount will be kept, will not be counted towards the demand. So first of all, that is part there. And taking into account that, again, it will not be suo motu that the assessing officer, the tax officer will be implementing or imposing the penalty. A show cause has to be given, and then a response has to be taken into. Then only he has to pass an order also along with the assessment order. So if you see it has to be a combined package. You see it that overall your litigation cost goes down, and your time factor goes down, your uncertainty goes down, and actually the outflow or the amount which about the refund, I think Pankaj or Pitambar will add to it about how it is being taken into account. That I will request Pankaj or Pitambar to respond.
Yeah, yes, some form of guidance might be helpful. Yeah.
Actually, I'll just. Yeah. Though I think the sir has made that point very clear that even though this is a combined order of assessment and penalty, actual financial implications is restricted to only core tax demand of the assessment. as far as recovery part is concerned. Now, that also, as you would have seen in the budget, announcement, that previously used to take 20%, that is now reduced to 10% of the core tax demand. That is only the minimum amount to be paid. Now, as far as this process, that this is a package, so already you know that assessment and penalty proceeding for a particular assessment year actually is spills over to 8 or 9 years. So that part is taken care, that at least from the day one, the assess's litigation is limited to a very limited period, and where he will be able to know his position as far as penalty and tax is concerned in a very shorter period of time. Now, another announcement here is that interest on penalty will not be leviable till the first appeal is disposed of. So that also has been cleared in the budget speech also. So basically, only thing is that yes, it will be in the book, it will be seen as a bigger figure, but nothing to be worried about, as sir has already assured about it, that as far as income tax department's interaction with that demand is considered, it is only 10% of the core tax demand. So therefore, nothing to be worried. Only thing that we wanted to give a certainty for this proceeding at a very, very faster pace. And once your quantum demand is deleted, then automatically penalty also is gone. So therefore, there is nothing to worry about this at this point in time. Then Pankaj may add something.
Thank you, Pitambar Das ji. Very, very heartening. Yes, sir.
No, sir has already clarified, Pitambar has also clarified. Just one more thing to add to it, that it's a very valid suggestion that refunds also get adjusted to, so whether they should get adjusted to that penalty demand or not. That is a concern. We have taken note of it, and let us see how we approach. But then this is a valid concern, that I would say. And other things, they stand clarified. First appeal, no interest, no collection, and even where we were collecting 20%, that also reduces to 10%. So that way we have tried to moderate the thing to the extent possible, and there should not be any apprehension on this count. But how it operates exactly, that it is, this provision is going to start from 1/4/2027. So there is some lead time, and then if there are any kind of rough edges to it, and whatever stakeholder suggestion that we receive in the meantime, that we will definitely consider and come out with more clarity on this.
Sure. Thank you so much. That is so nice of you. Questions?
Sir, I have a question regarding growing area of concern is backlog at the commissioner appeals level. So, though government has tried few checks and balances for introducing more people at the commissioner appeals to clear that backlog, but those are not moving at that pace which is required. Do we see any light on introducing a timeline on commissioner appeals closure, or probably like a DRP?
So I will respond to it. Like, suppose you are commissioner appeal and you are asked to issue 700 appeal orders in a year. So every working day you have to give 3-4 orders, you have to draft them, see them, do the hearing part. So the officers, they are doing tremendous amount of work. So that is one part of it. Second thing is that in this budget also we have tried to reduce litigation. How not to? We do not want to enter into litigation, and that we have made clear. Updated return, enabling updated return after reassessment notice also, and then even after assessment is complete, then also one can avail immunity, pay taxes, avail immunity, and take a piece. So my point is, litigation is not a one-way street. Litigation is a two-way street. We are doing our part, and then we, like I mentioned somewhere else also, in 2008, since 2008 we are doing e-filing. It is 16 years. We are saying we do not want you to attach any document. Just file your return. What you file is, and then 99% of that it is what you file is accepted. So that is the, so as in the morning also, and sir also said trust based governance. So my point is it's a two-way street. So we are doing our bit to the extent possible. Yes, but then as far as that timeline you are saying, whether we are, so show me in one place where there is timeline on judiciary. It's a quasi judicial forum. Okay, he is, so suppose the taxpayer does not give no replies or documents. You want him to pass an ex parte order? Obviously, you will not want.
Prasanjit sir.
While
Just to
we
add-
will continue the interaction,
One
sorry.
second. Prasanjit sir wants to add.
Just to add what Pankaj just mentioned, that even for the last year, as you already pointed out, that a lot of efforts have been made by department. So even the last year also, the number of the appeals which were disposed of was much more than the numbers of appeals which were filed. And even this year also, by 31st December, the department has been able to dispose 35% more than the last year's appeals also. So it's not that all efforts are being made, but of course I mentioned it has to be it's not a one-way street also. So sometimes, a lot of times, so the taxpayers is a right forum. I would request also that the lot of time the taxpayers don't respond to the assessment orders, but when the orders are received, they go for the appeals. So that means they are aware of the proceedings, but they are not responding. So that is why sometimes this communication also leads to litigation, also miscommunications.
Sir, one small question.
Yes, Rakesh.
Sir, as talked by sir regarding the burden of proof, at the assessment level, the AOs are revenue minded and prejudiced not to consider the assessees, not to give the chance to the assessees. As per, they often verbally say that we have the direction from the seniors for generation of the revenues and make the assessments. So the ease of doing business, citizens' autonomy, and the constitutional right is done away at the income tax office. They are so much high-headed not to consider the assessee, and in between the CAs and other things, you see, whole thing is so complicated कि एक बार आदमी जब फंस जाता है वो चक्कर ही काटता रहता है और टैक्स पे करता रह जाता है. उसके बाद अपील में कंसीडर होगा, ITAT में कंसीडर होगा. थैंक यू. राकेश गुप्ता.
हाँ जी सर, the tone from the top is very, very clear as I am seeing, but I am happy for any of you to answer his question. But I think the tone from the top is very clear.
Just a small point, that it's not the correct picture. It may, because the number of the appeals which are filed, if 100 assessments are being made, the appeals are filed only in 40% numbers, maybe some plus minus 5-10% maybe there. So it's not that everywhere what the perception आप बता रहे हैं कि every case the assessment officers have been told to be harsh or to be pro-revenue. It is not like that, because there are certain checks and procedures are there. They are monitored by the supervisory officers. So it is, and a lot of systems are in place. So it is a very sweeping statement, I would say.
Yeah, and I would, in all fairness and on balance, I would say there has been some 70-80 years of background and history. It takes time also for everything to change overnight, but I think the tone is clearly a very refreshing one. Yes, please.
While we continue with the interactions, I would just request Pranav sir to kindly honor our dignitaries who have joined a little late by presenting them with the green certificate.
Yes, so let me of course welcome Pitambar Das ji, Pankaj Jindal ji, and Anupam Saab. So,
sir, requesting you to present the green certificate to Mr.
Sorry,
Pankaj
the way
Jindal.
it all happened. This is just
Mr. Pankaj Jindal,
yeah.
Joint Secretary, Central Board of Direct Taxes, Ministry of Finance. Mr. Anupam Prakash, Joint Secretary, Customs, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, Ministry of Finance. and Mr. Pitambar Das, Joint Secretary, Tax Policy Legislation, Central Board of Direct Taxes, Ministry of Finance.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Now we can continue with the interactions. Sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ritu Malhotra. Sir, this is with regard to the black money, and as the budget goes to show that that the government is recognizing the fact that there are certain inadvertent errors because of which the taxpayer is not intentionally has not made the intent of not disclosing, but because of some inadvertent errors the disclosures have not been made, and therefore the scheme is coming out for such people to come out and settle the matters. Unfortunately, sir, there are a lot of cases of similar nature which are now stuck in protracted litigation, where the intent was the money was not technically black money; it was just a non-disclosure in the returns, which has led to a lot of litigation, led to penalties and interest. I would not say, I mean, a suggestion, but something that can be looked at for such cases also, where probably a Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, which was done for direct taxes, similar scheme where there is where the taxes on requisite taxes are paid, but the penal and the interest provisions are then given away, so that such people also, where the intent was never to stash away the money outside India, but there were non-compliances which were inadvertent. Something to those lines which would really be helpful, because on ground we see a lot of such situations where taxpayers are really getting because of the protracted litigation they're getting involved in that. Thank you.
Yes, please.
So, no, there are two parts to it. One is that this scheme has come, and this scheme is applicable up to 5 crore rupee disclosed asset but not declared, so that you can 1 lakh rupee fee is there, and then you can disclose it and do away with it. So the point is that this whole process is a automatic one. You come, you file, and the system gives you a certificate. Okay. So the rules are yet to come, but then the way we have envisaged is that you make a declaration on this, whether it is undisclosed income up to 1 crore rupees or disclose undeclared assets up to 5 crore rupees. So it would be kind of an automated process. So the issue that you are raising, that for already where penalties they have been levied, so obviously that cannot be made an automated process, because there is already a order, there is an appeal, some application of mind has to be there. So the scheme that we have envisaged, the issues that you are pointing out, it does not fall into ambit of this scheme. Other suggestions if you want to make, so that you are welcome to make, that government will consider accordingly.
Absolutely, sir. The current scheme does not cover such situations, but the request was where there is already litigation going on. Such people also be given an opportunity to settle the matters by one-time payment of probably a fee, and the matter can be settled where there is no penalty then in such cases.
Please send your suggestions on it, and then we can consider, and then we can.
So before I.
No, I think it might be useful for us to kind of look at. And we covered a little bit, but I think your perspective would be extremely helpful. You've gone about making this amendment to Section 67, okay, whereby now bonded warehouses, and I think it's a big change. Goods can move from any bonded warehouse without any intimation, without any prior approval. Okay. What is it that you guys are envisaging? Whether it will cover SEZs, whether it will cover all sorts of bonded warehouses, whether, I mean, if you can throw some light on that, that will be helpful.
So thank you. Actually, this is one of the amendment which is again trusting the taxpayer in that line.
Yeah.
So our warehouse operations and the licensee and the warehouse keeper, they were having different responsibilities. Now what we have done in this particular warehousing provision by this amendment, we are trying to create trust-based mechanisms so that the intimation by warehouse keeper will be sufficient instead of taking approvals from the officer. So routine approval need not be taken. Obviously this will be backed up by digital architecture. So there will be some proper account keeping which is expected. Obviously it is there at present also. He will be moving out cargo from one warehouse to another warehouse. Again, no approval is required. Obviously some regulation will be framed around this line so that digital architecture suitably complements such type of officer driven approvals. So obviously e-seal movement probably will be there. When we come out with detailed regulation, it will capture every contours of it, and there will be consultation for framing regulations. So that aspect has been kept in mind while we are designing this warehouse operation. Secondly, for the e-commerce, if we see, there is a different enablement in a different section. There the custody is being built in. It is different from warehousing regulation, and two trust based again mechanism. One is for the courier sector in different section, and one for the normal taxpayer in another different section, where the penalty is being replaced by the term charge so that the penal connotation is removed. And similarly for the courier operations, the permission and re-export is automated and smooth, and the operation become efficient and profitable for the small MSME type of supplier who send their goods, get rejected, again to be sent. So this operation bring, this enablement will bring efficiency. So these three touch points are there. One is warehouse centric, one is courier centric, and other is general taxpayer centric. The litigation will be reduced with these measures, I suppose.
Thank you so much, Anupam. Yes, sorry,
Thank you for this very grateful session. My question is upon direct taxation. So many assessments are ongoing before my born and after my born and currently when I'm 36 years old. And I guess in future 10 years after assessment is ongoing, litigation is ongoing. But sir, Prasanji sir, because you are there, we have so very rare chance to meet you by face to face and have opportunity to ask such fair questions. Is there any future plan of government, of department, that there is no assessments? No assessment means there are so many countries, taxpayer pays the taxes in corporate as an individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, partnership, in any form. But government trusts that taxpayer in GST or in direct taxation, that you pay tax, there is no assessment, taxpayer is free of mind, he focus on his business, he focus on his working capital, and they perform their contribution to economy and to the government as well, because he collect taxes from the salaried person as well as a TDS form, he collect from the customers in form of GST and pays to the government. But still there is no trust or low trust with the SSC or with the taxpayer that you come our office and present your case that you are honest. So is there any picture after 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, or even after 50 years that there is no assessment like other countries and we can make a good economy with the trust built with the taxpayer and SSCs? This is just a small form of my question. Second, sir. Sorry, sir. Another, when I reach office, when I reach with the people of new Gen Zs, they use AI, they use Copilot, they use Gemini. Is there any opportunity or is there any form that in taxation we can incorporate, not for the assessment part, for the awareness part, that any SSC, every SSC or every taxpayer knows that this is a taxation, and even a chai wala got know that the chai he is making, the milk he purchases, the sugar he buy of branded sugar, he pay this amount of tax and this is the actual cost of his, so that he can make pricing and fair pricing with the customers as well. Thank you, sir.
So there are two parts of your question. which are already, I'm happy that you asked this question. That first of all, if we take the numbers, almost 9 crores tax returns are filed and only 0.08%, and that is almost returns are processed for are picked up for scrutiny. So that is a very, very, very small minuscule number. So trust-based governance is, we are believing that the tax department believes, the government believes that 99.998% of the taxpayers are, whatever they say, it is being accepted. So that is one. Number two, then again the scenario comes where I talk about scenarios where the tax department finds that using the finds that there are some discrepancies in the tax returns. So now what we mentioned earlier also, what the tax department is doing is that it is nudging, that we are nudging the taxpayer, that we have found that, see, we have seen that there are some mistakes in your returns, please update. So the updated returns are already there, and those updated returns are not picked up for scrutiny. So whatever you update it is accepted, and then so already things are in process, already trust-based governance in place. But to say that it will become zero is nowhere in the world. Let me tell you, there's nowhere in the world it is zero assessment proceedings. It is one. India is one. And again, coming to the second part of the question is about the pre-filled. You are already getting a pre-filled returns. You are getting your AIS. You are getting your 26 AS. You already know what your transactions are. So all these tell you that these transactions, this belongs to you. You access it, and when you're going to file your return of income, it is already pre-filled with the option of making changes. So all these, and with the coming of the new forms, it will become more robust and become more. So see, ultimately, it is a two-way. That is, the taxpayers also have certain duties also. So, and that duty is, and the tax department is to be a facilitator, to be a hand-holding. That is being done. I may not say that it may be the best system, but it is being enhanced. It is being done on the basis issues of the inputs. It is being improved. But systems and the approach is already there. And if you can give up some scenarios and some paper with through the FICCI, it can also be considered. How do you feel that it can be make more robust? We are open to that.
So just to add, in our direct taxation, in corporate taxation, there is any option. There we have option of faceless assessments. But why not in GST? Because in GST still we are issuing notices and doing assessment, doing audits, all these things up to tribunal, up to high court level. There are so many litigations there. But is there any possibility after numerous of years or numerous of time that we have a faceless assessment in GST as well, so that taxpayer can relieve? Thank you.
Sir, with your permission. So if we talk about the indirect tax system, there are two taxes, main taxes. One is GST, one other is customs. First, I will touch upon customs. The customs, there is already provision in Act. It talks about self-assessment by the taxpayer. So most of the tax is paid on the basis of self-assessment. Around 85% it is self-assessed, self-paid. Only 15% is intervened. If you see the finance minister's speech this year, it talks about the whole of government approach, while where custom is the front end and is implementing requirement of different department agencies. And Honorable Finance Minister specifically indicated that around 70% of the cargo is required to be checked because of the different departments' requirement, whether it is a permission, license, some type of order, some type of certificate. So that approach has been taken note of. There is a digital single touch point is created for the customs, and all those agencies, and including plant quarantine, animal quarantine, FSSAI, they will be interacting through only this single touch point. Any query, any response to that query, all the history will be available in single portal of the taxpayer. He will be having all his previous licenses, clearances made, all this type of data in the single place. It will make the business easier for the taxpayer. So that is customs part of it, and the present direction from the government. For the GST side, if you see, it is mainly the return based approach in GST. There is no assessment. It's the assessed tax paid by taxpayer for which he files return, and the correction time is up to annual return, which is to be filed after certain duration after end of the financial year. So till November he can make correction in the annual return. So that mechanism also exists in GST. It, we may not say itself as a faceless assessment or self-assessment, but it is akin to that process and an approach. So the whole of government approach is basically to have a mechanism so that there is a trust to taxpayer, the penal consequences are limited, and the criminalization aspect is also not there to that extent. Thank you.
I'll just add just one more thing on the GST side, just to what Mr. Prakash said. It's a great kind of question. I mean, to start off with, even under GST, the scrutiny afterwards, I mean, is not more than, I think, 1%. Okay. But in GST, you need to realize that there is a central government and there are several state governments, and the number of registrations also are more. And under this old state government sales taxes, where assessments were kind of carrying on, they are trying to kind of get a risk-based system to kind of look at it. So some states have kind of done well. Some states have and reduced the number of scrutinies subsequently. I'm sure over the next couple of years that will kind of come through. And to my mind, I think it's important for us to realize on the GST that it's a evolving subject, and hopefully we'll get there. But it's a good suggestion and a good list to come.
Yeah, very nice. I like your utopian thought that no assessments will ever be made. I don't know what finally the answer was, but let me put it this way, hopefully we move towards that. But for that, taxpayers also need to reciprocate, and intermediaries, all the consultants and the entire ecosystem also needs to be to that extent fair, honest, and whatever. So hopefully we are moving in that direction. And while they'll probably not be 100% honest citizens ever, but the stigma attached to that 1% who does something wrong from ourselves will be so great that the government will not be required to correct them or keep them in check. Pankaj ji wants to say something.
I just want to know, हिंदुस्तान में महाराष्ट्र में एक जगह है शनि सिंगनापुर, ठीक है, वहाँ पे लोग रात को अपने घर के दरवाजे खोल के सोते हैं, शायद बहुत से घरों में दरवाजा ही नहीं, ठीक है. हम भी चाहेंगे कि ऐसा ही हो, है ना, लेकिन
very good analogy, I must say.
Sir, just to want to add into this, when the assessments and audits are going on, so we have seen a different approach by the different states, by the different officers. So sometimes they want to cross the boundaries, they want to cross the jurisdictions also. So is there any guidelines for them to continue or to remain in their jurisdictions? So we have seen a problems in the audit of the input service distributor, where the different recipient states want to go beyond their jurisdiction and want to do the audit of the ISD distributor state also. They want to bring each and every documents of the ISD distributor state in their states. And in this way, if we are registered in more than 10 states, then you can understand the problems of the dealers in presenting all this data. And so what type of message is there for the jurisdictional officers to on this guidelines?
Okay, I think it's an issue. Obviously, it is not backed by law necessarily. I think, I mean, please do send a note on this. The reason why I'm kind of calling that out is that the legislation works in a certain framework. At the ground level, I agree that we've heard about these instances whereby, you know, there is maybe questioning done where at least the jurisdiction is somewhere else. We can go back to the government to get some clarity on the administration part.
Adding one thing in this, when there is suo motu cancellation of the number of the supplier, the tax supplier is not traceable, the taxes are recovered from the buyer. And when the Honorable Apex Courts had decided these issues, why the tax department don't make it a statute to decide the similar cases? The litigations go on and they go on coercion to the buyer. Similarly, in the income tax also, in Ashish Agrawal versus Union of India, the cases were opened from 2014 to 15 onwards, and the taxpayers and assessees were not satisfied as per the conditions of the Supreme Court. Similarly, there are a number of statutes where the courts has been deciding, but the departments never welcome to these decisions and try to make a dispute resolution to the issues, and they continues with the prejudice of their laws and their mindset of the department and the revenue oriented approach. Thank you.
On that GST issue, I will point out, but this forum was only for direct tax and indirect side, only the custom portion. But FICCI is already examining and in the process of submitting a proposal to Government of India on the reforms in GST and what changes we can do. So please do write to FICCI on that. And we have a separate group for that where all this discussion is taking place, and we are taking necessary steps.
I will humbly say the departments are to be challenged on the rights of the assessees on certain issues for the ease of doing business and growth in business towards the Viksit Bharat. Only coercion and high-headedness of the departments cannot take our country ahead.
May I come into a question which is a little, on direct taxes, Vidur Puri, just a technical question, and to understand, there is an interesting scheme or an exemption which is coming for or proposed for non-resident in a particular scheme. I am assuming that is for the electronic industries or whichever industry there would be. It talks about 5-year exemption since the time the non-resident first steps into India. There is also a clause which I was trying to understand that non-resident must be a non-resident for the past 5 years. What is the rationale of that capping? Have I missed something, or is there something that is, there is a cap? If I've read it correctly, and if
this is exactly the question of how to tax an expat who comes for a research work or some kind of education or any technological help in India. So that was a issue that generally the taxation principle is that the residents are taxed on his worldwide income, whereas the non-residents are taxed in a limited way for the income that is sourced in India. So that is the question is that then this residency rule changes depending on the number of days that you stay in India. For example, the general, I will not go to very detail, 182 days and more if you stay in India, you become a resident. Then there is in 4 years time, you should not stay for more than 365, that is there. So the question is that somebody comes as a researcher to India, then he is supposed to stay for a longer time. Then the problem arises that will expose him for a global income to be taxed in India because of his longer stay period in India. So basically this proposal is to address this issue that if you are coming under a government notified scheme for certain kind of notified activities in India, being a professional, your stay up to 5 years will not be entitled for India to tax your income on a global basis. So basically you will be taxed only on Indian sourced income for this 5 years of stay. So the question is why that cap of somebody previous has to be there, that there is a scope of even misutilizing, because 6 months time is a very small window. Somebody can be an Indian, stays say in UAE for 6 months, come back as a non-resident. So not to misuse and to actually give this kind of benefit to a actual non-resident, which is say a Harvard professor coming to India to teach in IITs for next 5 years, he will be staying here, making a research here. Those kind of activity has to be covered here. So therefore, there is a cap of not misutilizing by flouting the days. Thank you.
Sir, I have 2 points to make. Okay. One by one. Yeah, ma'am. Maybe you can start.
Hi, good afternoon all. My query is relating to indirect tax announcements. So there has been an announcement which says supply from SEZ to a DTA would be given a one-time relief on account of the tariff changes. So while I understand the scheme is yet to be reissued, and there is a deliberation around it, but any thoughts around what kind of a relief will it, when it says one time, does it mean once in a year? It says for manufacturing unit, does it will are there plans to also include services sector, and if they want to dispose of their assets from DTA SEZ to a DTA? So few queries relating to this. I have another question on GST, but I'm happy to hear your response to this.
Actually, the intention has been clarified in the FMC speech. The detailed modalities are yet to be worked out. So, intention is to give some type of concession in view of strained situation, so that the SEZ units, they can clear their goods on to DTA. And there was earlier demand also from the industry that there should be duty on duty foregone basis. So all these aspects will be covered when we are finalizing the scheme as such.
And also keep the
Yeah.
that will also make a
Thanks.
So it basically is, I think, a work in progress.
Yeah.
And I think we'll need to just wait for the fine print.
So
But your GST question.
Yeah.
Rajesh ji.
On the just another quick question
One
on
question.
the GST. But so the place of supply for intermediary has been omitted, and this will be effective from when the bill is enacted. However, is there any plan to fix a timeline from when it will be effective? Any relief for the past period where intermediaries have been paying taxes? Any thoughts around this?
Okay. We'll need to check. Okay.
place of supply when
The intermediary, when will it be made effective?
the day President signs the finance bill, so the whole act will be applicable for that.
Okay, because there have been some speculation that it may be effective from 1st of April 2026. Yeah.
So generally, as per now, okay, the expectation is that it should be when the finance bill gets the assent of the, it becomes an act. Okay, but in the past, I think they have at times notified a date, even for IGST amendments. An earlier interaction seemed to indicate that it might be at a upon the assent of the, or getting enactment of the bill. But we'll need to get some clarity on this further.
Sure.
Rajesh ji. Thank you. So I have 2 points on direct tax proposals. One on changes in MAT. So this proposal is in a way reducing the litigation also on account of deduction and exemptions. So most of the companies have moved to lower tax regime earlier, and now we are incentivizing the companies who have not moved to lower tax regime. So this question that benefit of set off of accumulated MAT credit has been restricted to the companies which will move to lower tax regime from 26-27 only. So there is an answer in the FAQ that why those companies are not being allowed to set off the MAT credit. So sir, one answer is given that they are already paying tax at a lower rate other than the other than the companies under the low tax regime. But sir, the companies which are in the low tax regime, they are already paying tax at the rate of 17.16%. If they are paying under MAT, even if they are paying under normal tax, even then their tax liability is reduced to 17.16%. Our industry suggestion is that this benefit of set off of MAT credit should also be given to the companies who have moved to lower tax regime earlier, because otherwise it will be a sort of penalty to those who have voluntarily shifted, who have contributed to litigation, reduction in litigation on account of deduction and exemptions. One point this. Second point, this on account of expenditure, deduction of expenditure on account of employee contribution to PFESI. This section has swung. Earlier it was being disallowed, then again it was clarified, no, it will be it has been brought in the statute. Now government has accepted that there is no point in keeping. So industry suggestion is that the past litigation on this account should be brought to a halt. Otherwise, it will be beneficial from this next year onwards, but litigation will continue on this aspect. So suggestion is that it should be means some guidelines or some instruction should be issued on this. So one point on the GST, I don't know it is relevant here or not. Section 54(6), even though council in the rules it has already been provided that inverted duty structure will be issued on provisional basis. So provisional basis means provisional basis, but our experience is that after this GST 2.0 reforms, some industries have been brought under the inverted duty structure. So applications have been filed on a monthly basis. It was committed that refund will be granted within 7 days, but across the countries refunds are not being granted irrespective of the applications are in order. So everywhere automation has been made, digitization has been made. So can it be made, this refund can be issued automatically without any human intervention? Thank you.
So maybe Matt point, yeah, Pankaj, you will like to answer. Level playing field for earlier new regime countries.
So Matt, I will start with a question to you. You can pay taxes under old regime, you can pay taxes under new regime. You would be computing your tax liability in both the regimes. Have you paid a single penny extra after that computation? Obviously, you would have paid the lower thing. That is my first thing. So the companies which have come, they have come on their own. Today we are saying that no, the tax credit would be allowed only in the new regime. So that means the scheme, you have to see the scheme has changed. It has changed. 3 components, they are there, essential components. MAT is made final, MAT rate is reduced, then the credit is allowed only in the new regime. Credit is allowed up to an extent. So somebody who wants to utilize that credit, so he has to per force come to the new regime. So when you use some element of, when you take away the no option of the taxpayer, when you take away the discretion of the taxpayer, so we have tried to build in a policy which is as smooth as possible. But then there is essential difference between the companies which moved earlier and forgot their credit because it was in their interest to do so. Today, the second leg of companies who are being asked to move, or whenever they want they can move, but the MAT final in the old and accumulated credit set off only in the new. So these kinds of companies, so the scheme does not operate as it was operating for the earlier taxpayer. So there is essential grounds of differences between 2 sets of companies. That loss is out of their books for last 5 years. So it's the loss is something they have already forgotten. So it is, you are trying to, your question is like, can you revive something which is gone? Can you bring life to something which is dead? So it is not. I mean, that is what I said. So level playing field we would be very happy to provide, provided the both companies, both sets of companies, they are at the same level. They are not at same level. That is what I wanted to emphasize.
Your second question, Pitambar Das ji is answering.
This is regarding your query on PF and ESI. You must understand that there are 2 components. One is employer's contribution and that is employee's contribution. Employer contribution, there was no issue because it was allowed to till the date of filing of return. Due date of return. So you are getting this employee's contribution because you receive that money becomes your income under section 224. Deemed income. When you pay, then you get a set off against your income. So that was the scheme. So now thing is that there was a requirement that time under the PF Act to regulate this thing more in favor of the employees, that the companies may defer not paying this thing. So therefore, it was made that 15th of next month, which is the due date for crediting to the employee's account, they should do it to get that benefit under this thing. So why? So that was actually going in what the Supreme Court in checkmate case had decided in favor of revenue, that this is the thing that you have to pay in next month by 15th or in grace period time. So, but in the meanwhile, some development, because the regulations are not in the PF and ESI Act enough that time, so they requested the income tax department to regulate on behalf of them, like MSME that we are regulating in 43. So now that there is adequate regulation has been given in their act of PF and ESI for not depositing in time, so those regulations should not happen in the Income Tax Act, because it is actually adding to the burden. So basically what we are doing, we are actually aligning both these payments till the due date for the purpose of tax. So that clarity we have given. So we are not jumping into regulating which the PF and ESI is already started regulating.
Very fair. On GST, I think we can note down the suggestion, because this is very good suggestion based on the automation technology. We can just pass on the suggestion to our GST department for the look at it. Great. Sorry, yeah.
So, sir, as he mentioned that there's a lot of accumulation that is happening on account of GST 2.0 implementation. So that major accumulation is also on account of input services, which are currently being taxed at 18%. So any plans of including refund of input services as well under inverted duty structure, sir?
Yeah, so this suggestion is going through from the FICCI side. Right now, the functionaries here kind of don't look at GST, but this suggestion is kind of, and if you want to kind of add on any suggestion into, please do send it.
Yeah, just one last question someone had, just one last one. Yeah. Oh, yes, I'll come to you.
The government is trying to develop the inland waterways ecosystem. So there's an presumptive tonnage tax. So how this would be implemented, if you could elaborate this further.
Presumptive tonnage tax, where is this question coming? Yes, presumptive tonnage tax, just can you please repeat the...
No, how this would be implemented, like it's going to be a game changer, so if you could elaborate this.
For inland waterways, how it is going to be implemented. So, no, if you can make your question clearer, because tonnage tax scheme is already inbuilt and it is a very detailed one, and we have only enabled it for inland waterways. And then this time the amendments that we are proposing in Income Tax Act 2025,
because 5% of the
my point is that the amendments which are proposing now, they are only because the tonnage tax company and then these inland vessels, they are regulated by different regulators. So DG Shipping, it was regulating that tonnage tax company, and inland waterways, they are regulated by Inland Waterways Authority. So because the authorities are different, so we are enabling those authorities, in that we are giving those references to those authorities in the new Income Tax Act. So that is the only purpose of the amendments that we have proposed. Otherwise, inland waterways, the whatever tonnage tax provisions, they apply as they apply to a tonnage tax company, they apply to an inland waterways company. So if there are any challenges or issues to that, maybe if you can make it clearer, then we would.
Just very last, we are running out of time. Yeah.
Very good afternoon to all of you, sir. Karan Sharma from Dynamite News. Actually, sir, for youngsters like me, confusion going on around across the nation. Since Donald Trump has told about a trade deal with us, sir, actually I wanted to know whether the tariff windows have come down from 50% to 18%, or that the reciprocal part has been down to 18%. And has the deal been finalized between the countries, or has it to be finalized yet? And how long will it take to get signed?
Anupamji, would you want to take it or skip it? Whatever, I'll leave it to you. So let us wait the notification from Department of Commerce. We can just wait for the outcome. Yeah, it's.
So just wanted to clear the confusion about that tariff window.
I would just like to add one thing. This is not a subject which relates to direct taxes. Okay. But just to add, Donald Trump has settled the STT. Okay.
Very well said. I think we are really out of time.
Sir, in some services, the 18% is GST, and after paying 18% GST, then income tax is up to 30%. So total tax become 50% approx. So those who are paying GST, they should be given some rebate on paying income tax. So should government should consider this, because this is very high rate of taxes for the professionals and the self-employed. Thank you.
It's a pass through is what sir is saying. Okay, I think we should quickly end this. Thank you so very much, Prasanjit ji. Really appreciate for your frank and such nice patient replies. Pankaj ji, Anupam ji, and Pitambar Das ji. I wouldn't take too much of your time. Thank you everyone. Really appreciate. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
But we have to have lunch together. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Yes. Right. Yes, we have to join for lunch. Pankaj ji. Quick grab. तुम्हारे पास आ गया हमारे पास